No one imagined that behind closed embassy doors, a foreign diplomat was cutting secret gold deals under the noses of the Burkina Faso people. But President Traoré saw the signs, and what he uncovered stunned the entire continent. The sun had just set over Ouagadougou when President Ibrahim Traoré received an unusual report, not from his security chiefs or advisors, but from a quiet voice working behind the scenes. A young airport worker had noticed something strange over the past few weeks. A European diplomat named Outsmarted arriving on discreet private flights, always greeted by the same Burkina Faso businessman linked to old mining contracts. She never stayed more than a day, yet her visits were frequent, sometimes twice a week, and her luggage never passed through customs. The report was simple but troubling, and Traoré's instincts sharpened. In a nation rich with gold and marked by years of exploitation, such secrecy around foreign officials was a warning sign. He quietly assigned a trusted internal team to observe her movements. No public orders, no paper trails. Surveillance began. What they found raised more questions. Elise wasn't just here for diplomacy. She was meeting with men tied to illegal mining, some previously expelled from the country. She had requested fast-track permits for environmental assessments in gold-rich regions, and her car was seen late at night at a restricted mining zone. All this was happening while the official story claimed she was here to support development partnerships. Traoré kept his silence, but watched closely. He knew foreign hands had once drained Burkina Faso's gold while calling it aid. Now, it seemed someone had returned, smarter, quieter, and more dangerous. But this time, things would be different. Traoré wasn't just going to stop her. He was going to expose everything. The game had begun, and he intended to end it with the truth. Outsmarted was known in diplomatic circles as calm, professional, and deeply committed to African development. She smiled often, gave eloquent speeches, and always carried herself like a friend of Burkina Faso. But beneath the surface, she was playing a different game, one only a few would ever see. As Traoré's team followed her more closely, they discovered that Elise had been secretly meeting with banned mining contractors. Late at night in private residences, far from embassy grounds, hidden microphones picked up shocking conversations, where Elise spoke openly about transporting raw gold off the books, and using coded language like shipment A and dust bags, referring to undocumented gold exports. She was also pressuring local officials to approve permits quickly, using both charm and political pressure. One evening, she was recorded saying, "If the president won't play along, we'll deal with whoever replaces him." That sentence alone confirmed her intentions were not just greedy, they were dangerous. Meanwhile, an envoy linked to her was caught at a rural checkpoint with small containers of unregistered gold, hidden beneath paperwork labeled as soil samples. The pieces were falling into place fast. Back at the presidential palace, Traoré reviewed the evidence in silence. This was no ordinary diplomatic offense. It was a coordinated attempt to rob the country's wealth under the cover of diplomacy. Elise had built two versions of herself, one for the cameras and one for the shadows. But now, both were beginning to crack. The evidence was overwhelming, and Traoré knew the next move had to be strategic. A direct confrontation could trigger an international crisis, but letting her go would betray everything he stood for. The clock was ticking, and the world was about to see who Outsmarted really was. President Traoré knew that confronting Outsmarted directly would be too risky if he accused her without undeniable evidence. The international backlash could damage Burkina Faso's fragile alliances, so he planned something far smarter, a trap designed not to punish, but to expose. His intelligence team leaked word of a fake new gold discovery in the eastern region, supposedly untouched by foreign interests. The bait was irresistible. Within 48 hours, Elise made a sudden request for a humanitarian inspection in that exact location, citing interest in water development projects. But the area had no water crisis, only an abandoned, security-controlled mining zone wired with discreet surveillance. When Elise arrived, she came with 2 foreign agents, disguised as environmental experts, and an armored vehicle. What she didn't know was that the area had been sealed off hours earlier, and her every movement was being recorded by hidden cameras and drones. Inside the site, she used a satellite phone to contact a private jet waiting across the border, unaware the call was being intercepted. As she walked toward a sealed shaft, her escorts began unpacking small devices used for soil sampling. Except these weren't meant for the environment. They were gold purity analyzers. Traoré's team had all the footage, back in the capital. The president waited for confirmation, then came the call. Elise was inside the trap. She had revealed everything without even knowing it as she returned to her vehicle. Thinking the mission was complete, military officials quietly surrounded the area. The diplomat, who once walked through government buildings with smiles and handshakes, now stood in the middle of the desert, face to face with the truth she thought she could hide. Traoré gave the order. It was time to bring her in. Elise Mornay was escorted back to Ouagadougou under heavy security, her diplomatic badge still pinned to her chest, but now meaningless. No cameras, no press, no public accusations, just silence and the cold walls of a high-level government safe house, where Traoré waited. When she entered the room, she tried to maintain her usual calm, but her eyes gave her away. She knew she had been outplayed. Traoré didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply laid the photos, audio recordings, and documents on the table, one by one. Each piece told a story of betrayal, not just against him or his government, but against the Burkina people. Elise finally spoke, trying to spin the operation as economic partnership, a covert arrangement to stabilize the region's gold sector. But her words were empty now. Traoré listened, then asked a single question. "Who sent you?" The room fell silent. Elise hesitated, then whispered the name of a European mining conglomerate, one that had previously been banned from Burkina Faso. It wasn't just her. There were more. Diplomats, companies, even some local officials, all working together to secretly extract the nation's gold and funnel it abroad. It was a web much larger than Traoré had imagined. But now, he had the thread that would unravel it. Still, he made no move to arrest her formally. Instead, he gave her a choice: go public and testify, or be declared persona non grata and watched forever. Elise stared at him, defeated. She realized this wasn't the Burkina Faso of years past. This was a nation reclaiming its voice and its gold. Traoré left the room without another word. The storm was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted, and this time, it was Africa writing the terms, within days of the confrontation. Whispers spread across diplomatic circles and mining boardrooms across Europe. Elise Mornay had disappeared from public view, her embassy offering no comment, her superiors silent. But inside Burkina Faso, change was roaring to life. President Traoré called an emergency national address, not to reveal Elise by name, but to expose the truth of the gold theft and announce a sweeping crackdown on all illegal mining operations, both foreign and domestic. The footage gathered from the sting operation was released carefully, enough to spark outrage without triggering full-blown diplomatic war. What shocked the nation most wasn't just the betrayal by a foreign diplomat, it was the involvement of local insiders, quietly enabling the theft for years. Traoré immediately launched Protocol Nation Rise, a reform package that transferred all mining oversight to a new civilian-controlled commission. Backed by military protection, transparency portals were created so every ounce of gold could be tracked. Elise, cornered by the reality of international exposure, agreed to testify secretly in front of African Union officials, revealing the network she had worked with for nearly a decade. Her testimony led to arrests in 4 countries and the freezing of dozens of hidden accounts. The world watched in silence. Then, Burkina Faso, once dismissed as just another exploited land, had taken control of its destiny, not with guns, but with truth. In the final weeks of the crisis, Traoré stood before a packed crowd at the old mining zone, now declared a protected national reserve. "Our gold," he said, "will no longer fund shadows. It will build our future." The crowd roared. For the first time in years, the land beneath their feet belonged to them, not just in law, but in power, pride, and purpose. If the story opened your eyes, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Subscribe to Face It Chronicles for more powerful stories uncovering Africa's hidden truths.